I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois. So my family immigrated to that area. My mom was 12 years old when she immigrated from Mexico, from Chihuahua. She went there with nothing more than a middle school education. And so I'm the youngest of 4 kids. I'm the baby of the family, as they say. And so I've seen how hard my mom has worked. She still works in a factory. She works the night shift. And she did that because she wanted to make sure she could take care of us 4 kids, of her 4 kids. I saw the hard work that she put in, and that sort of drove me to make sure that I was doing what she moved there for, right? Getting an education, bettering myself, bettering our family. And so ever since I was little, I said, you know what, I'm going to go to college one day, and I want to visit China, and I want to go to Japan. Like that was my interest. And so all throughout high school, I looked up to those teachers who could help me fill in the void that my mom couldn't, right? Because she didn't go to college, because she didn't really speak English all that well, she wasn't really able to help me, through the college application process. She wasn't really able to help me go visit schools and colleges and universities and really try to figure out what I wanted to do in life. And so teachers are the ones who stepped in and did that for me. One teacher in specific, Elizabeth Lopez, she's the one who sort of took on that role. She took me to see schools. She took me on visits on her own time to visit schools, helped me apply for financial aid, things like that. Because of teachers like Elizabeth Lopez, I was able to go to a 4-year private university, Valparaiso University in Northwest Indiana. I studied international business and Chinese and Japanese studies. I loved my time at Valpo, and that sort of set me up to be able to teach English in Japan for about a year, a little over a year. I lived in a very remote part of Japan where nobody spoke English. I went there not speaking Japanese because I focused on Chinese during undergrad. And so that experience really, I loved being in the classroom. I loved interacting with the students every single day. They loved learning English. And so when I came back, I wanted to keep teaching. I wanted to still be in the classroom. And I applied for Teach for America. They placed me in San Antonio, Texas, where it was really the first time where I was like, that the Latino, Hispanic culture is flourishing in San Antonio, right? They are so passionate. It's one of the places where I could see myself living, retiring maybe one day. I love San Antonio, the Riverwalk. I want to go back. I spent 2 years with Teach for America there. Eventually, I moved back up to Fort Worth, and I taught at Micha Middle School, just up the road, for 3 years. I taught social studies, Texas history, U.S. history, and world geography and cultures. And during that time, I really stressed the importance of education to my students. I stressed the importance of following their passion, right? I explained to them how I did that myself, and how the reason why I went into education being that I had those teachers who changed my life, who impacted me in positive ways, and I wanted to be able to do that for my students as well. Ultimately, I decided to go back to school, and I went to graduate school at Indiana University on a full-ride scholarship. I got an MBA in management. I got a job offer to come back to Fort Worth, and I now work in human resources in Waxahachie, Texas. So my drive is really long, but I enjoy the work that I do. I still have a passion for education, right? It's still something that burns within me, and so I wanted to find a way where I could still make an impact. Looking at the headlines last year, I was really troubled, right, with the talk about anti-critical race theory, what was happening in the classrooms. Looking at those headlines, I felt like we needed someone to stand up for all those students who would classify as other, right? Our minority students, our students of color, our trans kids, all of those kids who don't feel like they belong in the classroom right now with what's happening they need a voice, right? And I feel like I can be that voice for them. I want to make sure that when students go into the classroom, they feel like they can bring all of themselves to school and talk about the fact that they're Latino, and talk about the fact that they're African American, talk about the fact that they might have, you know, 2 dads at home or 2 moms at home, right? Those kids can't be ignored. They shouldn't be ignored. And so I'm fighting for those things, right? I'm fighting for those kids. I also have a 2-year-old daughter who's going to be going to school here in a couple of years, and I want to make sure that when she walks into the classroom, she has a good school, right? She has a well-funded school. She has teachers there who feel like they are respected, who feel like they're valued, and who are there because they also want to make a difference in the lives of kids. And so that's why I decided to run. We did have a primary. Thankfully, there's no runoff, so I am the Democratic nominee, and I will be on the ballot in November. With that, you know, I want to make sure that I'm listening to all the different voices within the community to know about what you care about, what matters to you when it comes to education. And so thank you so much for giving me the time to be here and let you learn more about me, but also let me learn more about the things that matter to you as well. So thank you.
Renato de los Santos, I'm with the LULAC Education Centers here in North Texas. And I'm wondering what your perspective on what you can do on the state board, particularly with CRC, because it's so embedded with politics right now. And there's so much going on. And we have just cleared the opportunity to teach Mexican American history in the classrooms. That's a hard battle to get that. How can we protect the ability of our teachers to be able to tell or teach a true history of what actually happened in this state? How are you going to be able to do that, speaking from the minority in that State Board of Education?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So when it comes to actual critical race theory, a lot of people don't understand that it wasn't actually being taught in schools, right? It was a non-starter in the first place. The Texas legislature went ahead and sort of codified that in the laws, saying you can't teach critical race theory in the classroom. In my opinion, that was a moot point because it wasn't being taught, right? So what we need to do is, number one, protect, right, Mexican American studies. And so when, in my position, if I were to be elected on the State Board of Education, we're looking at the curriculum standards, right? The instructional materials that go along with teaching Mexican American studies, right? And so in part of that process, it's going to be looking at the types of textbooks we're using, making sure that they're accurately representing the history that we want our students to teach, and it's not being quote-unquote whitewashed, right? And not actually teaching our kids what actually happened, right? Which sometimes can be tough things to talk about, right? And so in my time in the classroom as a social studies teacher, I made sure that my students were getting the critical thinking skills to be able to read things that might be difficult, tough subjects, but have the thinking skills, the critical thinking skills to come up with their own conclusions, right? I wasn't guiding them one way or the other. I was giving them the facts and letting them decide how they felt about it, right? Letting them formulate their own opinion on that subject. And so part of my job is going to be making sure that those materials are accurate and factual, but also making sure that I'm advocating that we need more of that, right? We need more of our kids learning about the various histories of what they come from, of the past here, even if it's something that a lot of people don't want to talk about because it makes them uncomfortable. So.
Mr. Cifuentes, thank you for being here. My question is this. You know, there is a law in education code that talks about the responsibility of the superintendent to make sure that every child that turns 18 is registered to vote. Unfortunately, maybe about 65% of those are actually doing anything about it. So you can imagine the kind of clout we would have, because approximately about 54% of all the children in the state of Texas are Hispanic. So you can imagine the numbers that are graduating, even though we have a dropout rate that is unacceptable sometimes. But what can you do? I know that Mike Morat, the Commissioner of Education, you have brought this to their attention. But I know that you're going to be very influential should you get on this board or commission. And what would you do to make sure that every superintendent doesn't just delegate the responsibility to every principal, but they themselves they're supposed to actually help and take those registration forms over to the County Elections Commission or board. What would you do to make sure that happens?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think voting and teaching our students about voting and their responsibility when it comes to civic duty is very important, right? So I was glad to hear about the organization that's in the back that's getting into the high schools, getting those students registered. In terms of influencing superintendents, I don't know that there's specifically anything within my responsibilities that I can actually do on the State Board of Education other than being an advocate, right? Getting on the phone with those superintendents, explaining to them the importance of making sure that all students are registered to vote when they turn 18. Getting them in contact with those organizations that can go into the classroom and register students. And so I'd definitely be a big proponent of that, right? As a social studies teacher, I understand the importance of the power of voting and the power that we would have if we got everyone registered and to the polls. So
the reason it's so important for us to get kids registered as soon as they turn a voting age is because the research indicates that the sooner you get these young people involved, the longer they stay involved. Yeah. And all the research is in our favor if we can get these 18-year-olds registered and voting.
I agree. Thank you for that.
Quick follow-up, Domingo. We've got candidates who got elected who we never heard of again till the next election. Would you be willing to make a commitment to come back, maybe on a quarterly basis, if Domingo would have you?
Of course. I love Chorizo and I love Menudo, so of course.
Gracias. You know, I don't know about y'all, but when I was in school, the only Mexicanos I ever heard about were the bad guys at the Alamo. You know, Santana. And I never heard of any other Mexicanos or Mexican Americans. And I'm talking about 1st grade to 12th grade. And we got to change that. Like, traigo botas, boots. You're from Fort Worth, aquí, ¿verdad? El vaquero era el cowboy. El sombrero, las chapas, el lazo, el patio, todo eso. But that's never taught in our schools. We're never taught about the first, El Rio Trinidad, the Trinity River. Who named it? Okay? All that stuff is never taught to our children, and it's never taught to our schools. So hopefully we'll be able to change and teach the real true Tejano history to our children here in the future. And it starts with the State Board of Education telling the truth. And it starts with the Fort Worth ISD. So we have 2 candidates who are running for the Fort Worth ISD. Many of you know Jacinto has resigned, and there's a special election for the Fort Worth ISD trustee. Our first candidate is a lifelong resident of Northside. He's president of the Northside Neighborhood Association. He's a Fort Worth police officer, and he's running for Fort Worth ISD. Let's give a big hand to Aaron A.J. Garcia.
Good morning. I'm thrilled to be here with y'all today, a proud resident of Northside. Welcome and thank you. Welcome any who are new to Fort Worth, our community, a stone throw away from my church, All Saints Catholic Church, where I grew up listening and learning to the legendary Father Hosso, who was a guiding presence and some would consider a conscience of Fort Worth. I'm before you because I decided to throw my hat in the ring for Fort Worth ISD School Board District 1. I'm a first-time candidate, however, no stranger to public community service as current president of the Northside Neighborhood Association. Our district is in trouble. Although great things have been accomplished in recent years and we must celebrate those, the district needs a course correction. We must focus our efforts and the community efforts to academic performance in the classroom. I am proud to have announced that I recently got the endorsement of the teachers, the United Educators Associations, who believe in my focus to making priority academic performance. We need to, as a veteran police officer, I've seen many families struggling. I've been to homes where officers have been out night and night. However, I've seen many succeeding despite those challenges, and we need to harness that spirit. We need to focus on the things that are working, and we need to seek best practices to improve in academic performance in our classrooms. The Fort Worth ISD has many great amenities. Our Gold Seal programs of choice and other amenities that we must advertise. Many think that charter schools are superior or that private schools are better. The numbers show that it's not always better. That is not always the fact. So if you believe that brighter days are ahead of us for our district, then I ask for your support. If you believe that together we can unite and improve student academics, then I ask you to join my campaign. Because together we can focus on the children and improve academics. Thank you.
Any questions?
I just want to add, I know that Chorizo Ramos was a strong advocate, not only for all students, but especially for the Latino community, and did a lot of things that no one had done before on the school board. What I want to ask you is if you're still going to be that same advocate that he's been for so many years here in Northside.
Definitely. At All Saints, Jacinto was the youth group advisor when we started Catholics in Action here at All Saints Catholic Church. And I understand that he left some big shoes for the next person to fill. But yes, I consider Jacinto a mentor, and I do plan to advocate here for Northside and for our schools, our children, and our community.
Thank you. All right, our next candidate is a graduate from the New York College of Pediatric Medicine, where she graduated from honors. She is a doctor here in pediatric specialist in Fort Worth. Let's give a big hand to Dr. Camila Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Good morning. My name is Camille Rodriguez. I am a native of Northside, still live up here on Clinton Avenue. I've lived there my entire life. I'm a graduate of Fort Worth ISD, and I too, like AJ, am a member of All Saints Catholic Parish. Like my wonderful father, my mother had to leave school at a young age. They had to go to work. After raising 6 kids and helping raise many others, she returned to get her GED with her sister, my tía. In fact, she was getting her GED when I was in high school. They didn't have the opportunities that they made sure I did. That's why I'm running. I want to make sure every child in the Fort Worth ISD has the same opportunities that I did. I want to help get the school district back on track. Our numbers are bad. We can't blame it all on COVID because they were in a decline since the last 6 or 7 years. So I need to help get the schools back on track, focused on student achievement, and I want the students to be ready for the workforce, to go into the workforce immediately after graduation if they choose not to go to college or trade school. I was speaking to Coach Garcia yesterday at the Trimble Tech and Northside baseball game, and he is a proud graduate of Northside High School and went on to TCU. And he came back to Northside High School to become a teacher and a coach. He said the education is the best thing that ever happened to him. Education is a great equalizer. No one can take that away from you. Not everybody's gonna be a professional athlete. Not everybody's going to be able to create the newest phase that becomes a millionaire instantly. So that is my focus, student achievement, getting the school district back on track, hiring a new superintendent, which is imminent because the current superintendent retired. And I'm just here to help my community that I love, and I'm ready to work from day one. I am experienced, I will be accountable and transparent. And I want to ask everybody in here for their support and their vote. My name is Camille Rodriguez, and I'm running for school board for the Fort Worth ISD District 1. Thank you.
Preguntas, any questions? Renato. Oye, this side of the room is very quiet. Despierta.
So my question is, the other candidate mentioned that Fort Worth ISD has some serious problems. You've also mentioned some issues in Fort Worth ISD. And district-wide, statewide, nationwide, we're all having problems with getting recovered from the COVID, and if there were problems before. Could you elaborate a little bit more on what you think we can do to build up students to get them back to where they were and further ahead from where they were?
Okay, well, with the new superintendent that once a search firm is hired, we don't want to go and interview stakeholders, business leaders, teachers, parents, and see what they want in a new superintendent, because he or she is going to have to guide us into the future and put us on the right track. I mean, there's going to be curriculum issues, there's going to be financial issues, there's going to be transportation, I mean, food service from top to bottom. We need somebody who is ready to take the reins from an urban school district with similar demographics, similar size, who can come right in and lead. Someone who's transparent and accountable to the community and will be the leader to the school board. And we'll all focus on the same thing. And like y'all asked earlier, I have been a registered voter all my life. My mother made sure I did vote. Early on, she would tell me who to vote for, and it was generally a straight Democratic ticket, which is no longer available, but I have voted at every election for the past 20 or 30 years, so yes.
I'd like to ask one more question, and really for asking for your help. Because through LULAC, we have a scholarship, partnership with Ford, where we're awarding $3,000 to young women and young men who graduate from Fort Worth ISD who want to go into automotive technology. We only got 5 applicants for 10 scholarships. So we extended the deadline to April 18th. Would you help us spread the word and help us make sure, find out what's happening, why we get so few applicants for a $3,000 scholarship to help young people go to college?
Yes, sir, we need to make sure Trimble Tech and Northside High School are in District 1. The district is a bit gerrymandered, but yes, I would talk to the counselors and tell them we need to have the students who plan on going to college, or does it going to be technical school, just the automotive industry, and make sure that they apply for this free money. Because, I mean, otherwise you have to get loans that you have to pay back. But free money is always best. I would make sure that they knew that this was available, and there's 10 available. And this has to be a Fort Worth ISD graduate, so it's not a pool of thousands. Like you said, it was just 5 last time. And then I would actually, just send letters to their parents or their kids. Maybe go to the automotive classes and say, this is available, please apply. And go from there. The word of mouth generally helps a whole lot.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question if nobody else has a question.
Okay.
My question is this. The research indicates that male Hispanics are not going to college in the numbers that represent in our population. Females are. Do you have any ideas how you can change that so we do not lose a lot of that brain power that's going to go heaven knows where, hopefully not to the penitentiary. So we need to think about innovative ways so we can get them, even to get into the workforce, be they technology driven or something of that nature that can make a living wage. What's your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. When I was in school, girls weren't going to college. I mean, they were hiding. They didn't want people to know that they were smart, that they knew math, that they knew science. And now it's changed. Now the girls are going and the guys aren't. But there's always a stigma that you're a nerd and you don't study, but you don't want everybody to know that you get good grades. So we just have to go back to there. This Forward Dice do is doing great programs with STEM, which is getting kids involved in science, engineering, mathematics. And we would just have to expand those programs and making sure that the guys are applying for these programs just like the girls are. And then once they get in the programs, just reiterate, go to college, go to college, go to college. And it's like some schools, they don't talk about going to college from kindergarten or first grade. We need to change the mindset of our students in the north side and the Loma. If you put it in their heads, go to college, then they're saying, well, maybe I will go to college and I will think about it at least. And it's always in the back of their heads. And if, when I was a young kid, I was the youngest of 6 kids. So I guess I didn't have to go to work because I was the youngest. So then I was like, well, I'll go to college. And then after that, everybody encouraged me to go to college, and that's why I went. So if you get the proper encouragement and know what's out there, I think people will go to college, boys and girls equally.
Thank you. A while ago, we were talking about the enrollment numbers of Hispanics in the school district. In certain areas, according to the Democratic Party, they told me, when I told them that 60% of our Latinos, that's what they make up as an enrollment in our schools. They make up a large number of those in trade schools, trade classes, like building trades and automotive trades and all that in those schools and all that. But one thing that they don't do is they don't encourage them to join the unions. Latinos are the least likely to be unionized. Now, I was a national union representative for the teachers. And I'm in the verge right now of trying to put together one that will get our Latinos, who are truck drivers, to get into a union through the teachers and build a coalition of groups all over the state of Texas and beyond the borders. Okay, but the schools need to go out there and try to tell them you're gaining I call it a trade that pays good, but it's only going to pay better if you're unionized. And that's one of the things that we need to stress, because those that are in the medical classes and everything, they come out right away. They're going to tell them, you become a registered nurse, you're going to make good money. But just think about the fact, back in the day, they weren't pushing for that. They weren't pushing for them to make the money. But we need Latinos to go out there and do that. And I congratulate you on your position to run for office.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right, I think we have one last question.
So I have a couple of questions. I probably have way more, but I try to whittle it down to just a couple. And I'd really like both candidates to see if they'd be willing to answer. What is your perspective on the racial equity policy from Forward ISD? What is your view of the direction of the board under the leadership of Toby Jackson? And how do you feel the district has used the ESSER funds, the federal funds, to help with learning loss from the pandemic? I'd love to get y'all's thoughts on those areas.
You want to go first?
One last time to start of it?
Sure. What's your view of the racial equity policy for Forward ISD? What's your view of the board's direction under the leadership of Toby Jackson? And what is your perspective of the utilization of ESSER funds, the federal funds for learning loss that they got for the pandemic?
Okay. So one, the direction of the board needs to stay out of the media and into the classrooms. I think we need to get back in the classrooms and focus on student academics. And we need to make sure that those ESSER funds are going to that. We need to make sure that we have kids reading on level by 3rd grade. And whether that be with tutoring or paying our teachers to retain and keep the great ones that we have. As far as the racial equity, there's always needs to be improvement, right? There's always work to be done because we still have a long way to go. So that department needs to keep going. The board needs to support it and enact policy off their guidance and experience so that we can continue to make progress.
Thank you. As far as racial equity, there is a racial equity department in Fort ISD. It's a $1 million a year budget with over 20 employees. My question is that department doing what it should be doing? Is that money being utilized well? If they can show me the numbers, they can say the student achievement in black and brown students has increased significantly since this department has been created 6 years ago. If they can show me that
It's not their responsibility, they don't have the power over the district to be able to force improvements to the outcome.
no, they're supposed to go in.
Responsibility on what department.
Right, but that's their focus. That's what they're supposed to do. That their racial equity, they're looking at the entire district and trying to get everything equal and then help the minority students as best they can. As far as Toby Jackson, she's been there a while. The presidency has rotated between Jacinto and Toby Jackson, and now it's under Toby Jackson. But the board is young, and that's why I'm ready to go in there. I'm experienced. I'm ready to help as best I can. I will speak up. I will ask the proper questions. I will make sure that the board and the superintendent is focused on student achievement. I know there's always outside forces, but you still have to come back to the main priority, which is student achievement. And as far as the funds, I would like to do a forensic audit if I'm elected, just to see where that money has gone, if it was used properly, and what we need to do to get it back to recover from COVID. The COVID money and a lot of the computers and the Wi-Fi and the north side, which wasn't available, and there was a lot of money spent on that. But now we have to make sure that the Wi-Fi is sustainable, that the computers are upgraded. But to see if all the money was used properly, we'd have to do an audit to make sure, because things can go here and there, and it's easy to play the shell game. Yes, sir.
Dr. Rodriguez, the two big issues that are coming to my office for ISD, for the kids, and they've been looking the other way, is on the bullying. They have never really taken bullying serious. That's why the cases are coming to my office. The other issue that's even worse is in the busing department. They're having an issue with black and brown people working against each other. They're directing black and brown in the bus department to fight each other. And the issues that are coming to us, we don't try to work with them, they're throwing us back and forth. And if we end up having to get into litigation, and that shouldn't have to happen. We know the issues there, they know the issues there. The people that we have had elected, we approached all of them. They were approached by the people with the complaint, and they were never attended. So that's why they got to the LULAC office to see what we can do about it. So that, since you're going to kick off running, why don't you look at the bus situation, because they need a lot of bus drivers. But people don't want to apply because they know how they're going to be treated. And we need to get away from the double standard and throwing black and brown people against each other. And on the bullying, it's a very serious issue.
Yeah, bullying is serious, very serious. And as far as
we need to look at that.
Putting blacks against browns, the powers that be, the Anglos or whatever, have been trying to do that since the beginning of time, because they know once the blacks and browns join together, we will not be defeated. So we need to make sure that doesn't happen.
just for a few seconds, to the candidates that are here for education, for ISD, statewide. We need support at the school boards. I'm asking some of y'all where y'all been at the school boards fighting for our black and brown children because they're being under attack. I was on the Racial Equity Committee. I was the co-chair of the Racial Equity Committee that had to step down due to death threats. And because yes, I called out white supremacy that was attacking our black and brown children during the COVID crisis. And I own it, and I don't regret it a bit, okay? I've been part of the Racial Equity Committee for several years. It's an advisory committee. There still lacks a lot of equity within our communities. I've been fighting for Latino representation, Latinos to be hired at our schools, our east side, southeast. They don't have people that look like us in our classrooms. I mean, there's so much going on, and we need support. Our leaderships need support, but they're under attack right now. And another thing, while I was on the Racial Equity Committee, we were trying to review the ESSER funds because we need transparency. And we need leadership that will speak to that, to transparency, and to know where these funds are being allocated. Our mental health well-being of our students during the COVID pandemic affected families, tremendously, and it's still affecting them. So, yes, we can say that the data shows that our kids are suffering academically. Yeah, before that, but even worse, it's because of COVID pandemic. Before that, COVID came and it put us back. But we also need the support where people are speaking up for our kids, showing up, because they're being under attack. You can't have just a small group of people speaking for our whole community. Cannot. So I urge the candidates that are here that, listen to the community, listen to our thoughts. Being at the school board is not easy. It's a lot of work. And also, the people that are sitting at our current school board right now for ISD is so divisive. And that's a work in progress. We have a school board president that didn't speak to defend the Racial Equity Committee members that are being under attack. There were only several school board members that defended the committee members. That whole department's under attack. They're volunteers, community members, but people that are doing work to speak up for racial equity for our children, black and brown children, our Latino, undocumented children, they need the support from the community.
I agree, and I did go to the school board meeting to talk about the numbers in the north side pyramid, the 7 elementary schools that feed into north side high school. There are schools at the 3rd grade level that math and reading, they are at 5%. 5%. You can, by guessing, you can get 20%. So that's a big issue that we need to focus on. And I did speak at the school board meeting about this because it is the greatest form of racism, not educating our children. No student deserves to sit in a failing classroom. Thank you.
And let me just add, once upon a time at our Chorizo Menudo breakfast, we had Roy Benavides. How many of you know who Roy Benavides is? He was a Medal of Honor winner. If you ever saw the movie Rambo, it's based on his life. But he was the real one. And he said at one of our breakfasts, que los tejanos no se rajan. Okay? And that means you don't give up. Look, we're going to be under attack by racists, KKK, far-right Republicans, but we always stand up, and we need to support people like that. Because the reality is, when you stand up to a bully, the majority of them back off. When you put lights on las ratas se van. So you need to just be able to stand up and push back. and not be afraid. I'm just telling you because I've lived it all my life. And so make sure that whoever becomes the next Fort Worth ISD trustee, that y'all stand up and fight back. And don't be afraid. Even, parece que we're the majority. We got to start acting like it. They're the minority. All right, next is a native of Venezuela. He got his and his MS Electrical Engineering from Rochester Polytechnic Institute. He obtained his MBA from that school also. He is a certified public management professional, and he is going to talk to us about Link America. He's the VP, Felix Vargas. Felix.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I came from Venezuela, so I'm an immigrant, and I'm very thankful to be in this country. This is the greatest country in the world, so we should all be proud to be here and be contributors to our society. I'm here to talk about technology, and I've heard a lot of messages from the different speakers about education. I think that is a very important topic. We should encourage all our kids to pursue an education and be someone. And it could be somebody that becomes the next entrepreneur, the next engineer, the next lawyer, the next school board member. That is very important because that's how we can become someone eventually. So I think if you have kids, make sure that they stay in school and they get through it and become someone. So I'm here to talk about technology. Back in 2013, our company started talking to one of the school districts in the area, and we wanted to ensure that they knew that we could help them develop a network so that the students could be connected to the internet, and when the school district issued a laptop or a computer to the students, they went back home and they were able to connect to the internet. So that was back in 2013. Eventually, we were able to work through solicitations and approvals, and the board of that particular school district approved $2 million to develop a network back in 2015. There was a change in the administration for that particular school district, and that project was never implemented. So, move time forward to 2020, and what happened? We had the pandemic, and then all of a sudden we sent people home, so the schools are closed, and the students that didn't have internet are now not able to get connected and do their work from home. So there is Operation Connectivity, which was a mandate from the state of Texas governor, and he has signed the Texas Education Agency and one of the major school districts in the area. And those two leaders were told, find a solution and get something that would allow to any school district in the state of Texas to be able to have this technology so that the students can be connected. In the other side of Metroplex, I believe for one particular school district, about 40,000 households do not have internet access. So that is a major problem, because if you, in this day and age, access to information is as important as having electricity and water. So if you don't have the ability to learn stuff, you're going to be left behind. So I think that's one thing that everybody, and I especially encourage all the people that are running for office to remember that this is a very important issue. You need to have access to information in order to become educated and eventually become someone that is a contributor to our society. So, out of these 40,000 households that I was talking about, those that the most affected ones are brown and black communities. So it was important for us as a technology company to be able to find a way of contributing back to society from a technological aspect. So we developed, we actually participated in another RFP that was in 2020, was selected, was one of 3 companies selected out of a group of about 13 different companies, and we implemented a pilot. We have a network that was developed, and we connected 200 households as a pilot experiment. And so now we are at the point where we have all these people, you know, that didn't have internet before. Now they have access to the internet, and now when their kids take those computers home, now they can connect and use this for their education. So I think that's, you know, the message for all the people that are running here, and not only the people that are running, but also the people that have kids, to make sure that they talk to the board members, representatives, and make sure that they are vocal about the fact that we have to have this type of technology implemented so that the kids can be connected. I think that's pretty much my message. I know that there are some questions.
Can you tell me from I guess a private corporation's standpoint, how also the company could be growing technology savvy people? Like, I understand that cybersecurity is one of the top jobs that everybody needs. Technology jobs are just massive. We can't fill that void. I do notice that a lot of people from India and China and other places are definitely coming in, doing startups and taking a lot of these jobs. Why not create that workforce in the high schools so they can go into the profession? What's your opinion on that?
Yes. So that is definitely a very good area to develop, and there are school districts that are very focused on the STEM programs. Some of the school districts actually have the dual education type programs that allow the juniors and seniors at high school to be able to go to college and potentially get a dual degree. So by the time they get graduated from high school, they can also have an associate's degree. I think that's an excellent idea because these areas, these jobs are in the technology field, like cybersecurity, for instance. I'm sure you've heard that the Russians are going to be attacking us through the internet, right? So we need people educated in these fields, and these jobs are very highly lucrative for the people that, you know, get educated in this field. So, you know, cybersecurity is one of them. But any technology field, if you are in the IT field, I mean, those jobs are extremely high rewarding for the people that get educated. So, of course, it takes the encouragement from the families to make sure that the kids, you know, keep in school, get graduated, get interested in these areas, and of course, it's the school districts to ensure that they develop the interest into these areas so that the kids can go into it.
Wondering if you could elaborate for us what your company is actually proposing, what it would look like. And for example, at Tech or at Diamond Hill Jarvis High School here in Fort Worth, if we knew that there's 200 families that didn't have internet there, how would that work? If they live around the high school there, how would you connect them? Or are you reselling Spectrum or some other company's internet?
Yeah. So, of course, all the established companies like AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, the large corporations, they do have programs that are supposed to be low cost for connectivity of the households. But usually, these families are struggling between putting food on the table and paying for the internet. And so that's an easy decision, right? I mean, we know that in our school districts, I don't know what the percentage of the students, they get fed because they go to school. Okay? So, I mean, that's an easy decision. Pay for internet or put food on the table, I mean, that's a no-brainer. So, the technology exists, and companies like ours, like America's a privately owned company, we are not as large as AT&T or Verizon, but we have the capability of developing these type networks. So, what we do is just from our perspective, the company perspective, is to make sure that people know, the board of directors, the superintendents, the IT staff within the school districts, that they know that we exist, and then we just spread the word and tell them, this is what you can do. And in some cases, a smaller company like ours could be more cost effective in the development of these networks.
So do you actually put the network broadcasting from the school internet, or?
Yeah, usually there'll be either a tower on a school site or perhaps an antenna on a rooftop at the school location, and then from there we broadcast into the neighborhood. But then of course on the other end, we have to make the phone call, set up the appointments, talk to the household, make sure that we connect the device, and of course for most of our communities, there is a need for having the bilingual capability. So we also are able to do that. So that's how we do it.
Sorry. Just curious, do you have towers? I know you mentioned having towers at different schools, but do you have towers set up on city-owned property?
Well, that's a good question. So right now, the school district that we're working with, one of the towers is located at one of the properties. But the city, where that school district is also looking into developing their own network. So what we encourage, different entities, different government entities, they try to do their own thing, but what we encourage is for them to collaborate and talk to each other, because for that particular school district, when we call somebody, it's the same citizen that lives in that city. Okay, it's the same household. So we say, we already are talking to your households, right, as part of the school district initiative. So why don't you guys, the city and the school district, collaborate to try to develop these networks together, instead of each one of them having their own projects.
In the last legislation, money that was okay, that was going to rebuild the infrastructures and everything. One of them that was one of the key issues in there, was broadband.
Yes.
Is that coming up to where housing that don't have the internet and everything, will they be able to pick up the internet through those broadband systems?
Yes. Well.
But I have to pay.
Yes. So there is in those that funding is going to come to each one of the states, and of course in the state of Texas, we have participated with the broadband listening tour, which is organized by the state of Texas Controller Office, because they're the ones that are going to manage the money that is going to come from the federal government for this particular purpose, which is the broadband connectivity. And so they would be looking not only at urban needs, but also rural needs. And that would be through those funds that are coming from the federal government.
I know that because when I worked with the railroad, we had satellite type communications from one tower to another tower, and that's how they contacted the trains and dispatchers and all and everything. And eventually, they sold that out to GTE, who's now Verizon, and then that built up the cellular deal because they used that system and also their what do you call it, fiber optics.
Yes.
To build a big communication thing.